Hi, my name's Amy Bernstein with Bernstein Realty, and I want to welcome you to our podcast. I'm super excited to be sitting here today with Neil Silverman, one of our longtime wonderful associates. And I've grown to know Neil so well professionally and personally, and he's just one of the finest. And so I'm just excited to be able to talk to you today. About the new changes in the real estate industry. I think today, more than ever, the discussion of what value does the real estate broker bring to the transaction. And I think when you talk about value, you talk about the value you bring as a buyer's broker when you represent the buyer, and the value you bring to the seller as the seller's representative. So I'd like to start today with you just talking about what value you feel a real estate broker, a good real estate broker, because there are real estate brokers and then there are good real estate brokers, conscientious and those that just roll on through. And I think that you're absolutely one of the very best. So I'd like to talk today about what services that you provide to your buyers when you represent them in the purchase of their home.
Well, thank you, Amy. Yeah, I recently read a percentage of what buyers really want in a real estate agent, and that's to understand the process. 61% would like to know and understand the process of buying a home, whether they're a new home buyer or if they are an experienced home buyer and bought several properties. Things have changed so much in our industry. So the service level is incredible, whether it's new construction, which absolutely takes on a whole nother type of service with all the other things that go on within the process.
We've been through that.
And we have been through the war together. Or whether it's a resale, starting with, finding the home and working with the client, being able to point out the things that are unique about a home is incredibly important. They do love that part of it. And then once you're found the home, negotiating the contract, but it doesn't stop there. Writing the contract, being executed, moving forward through option period. I put together a timeline for our clients, and it is a timeline that I expect them to look at, but I don't expect them
to memorize it
in their busy day. It's not up to them to look at that 3 times a day, where I'm looking at it 3 and 4 times a day or 2 times a day to keep on track. Option period, inspections, whether it be the survey that needs to be ordered. There is a whole plethora of things that you have to keep your eye on. And whether you want to call us a quarterback or the coach or the manager, that's the role that we play. And that's the level of service that we do from not only start to closing of it, but even after. I mean, there are things that happen after the execution or after the closing of a home that a lot of realtors don't remember or do. And I can name several, and you can too.
I think you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that you are the quarterback to the transaction and you're responsible for every aspect of it. However, after the transaction, you want to be their friend for life.
Absolutely.
And they can call you afterwards for things like tax protests or who's a good plumber or who do you recommend for a window covering.
I'm constantly getting that from even friends that I've never sold homes to, because they know that in our back pocket we typically do have really great trades that we can recommend. I would say that it doesn't just stop there, but after our closing, there's tax calculations that we do. We take a look at what we closed, how much taxes the buyer received from the seller, and to find out if that was justified. I can tell you that I've found literally thousands of dollars for my clients in their favor over taxes after closing.
Right. Do you, what do you think has been, I mean, you've been in the industry for years and years now. When I first met you, I think we met to discuss the real estate industry years and years ago, and I think we had a 4-hour lunch, maybe.
It was.
And I was so excited, but I know you had such enthusiasm, and you still have that same enthusiasm today as you did years and years ago when you entered the profession. But what do you think are some of the greatest joys of our profession and the representing the buyer?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, I have said this on many occasions, the training and the support that we have gotten from Bernstein Realty over the years is second to none. So I've always felt that I was prepared. So I would say that, number one, I get the joy of being prepared, and certainly the training wheels have come off over the years because you were there to always support me. But I feel the joy of being able to go through a transaction and never have to call you.
But I miss it when you
No, I don't mind
me.
calling you for fun things. But, if I'm calling you, it's important.
Yes.
It's something, if it was within a transaction, I always know I have the support, and I know I always get the right answers. So the biggest joy that I get is knowing at the end of the closing that the client has absolutely been satisfied with our service.
Yeah. And usually that, number one, they tell you. Number two, a lot of your clients will write me an email, or they'll fill out your rating after you send them a feedback. But I think a lot of times a lot of your customers now are referrals from existing clients that you've helped, and they are proud to give your name out. That's the biggest compliment, really.
Agree. That is the biggest compliment. I agree 100%. I can't tell you how many clients that I have not only had repeat business with, certainly repeat sales, and both in selling and buying homes for them again, but for them to say, I really would like you to take care of my niece. I'd really like you to take care of my brother, and so forth. And over the years, and it has been quite a few years being in the industry now, the majority of my business is repeat.
But the thing that the buyer looks for more than ever, I think, and I'd like you to elaborate on it, is they look for somebody that is absolutely going to fight tooth and nail for every aspect that involves them in the transaction. So let's start with negotiation. Negotiation is always a high point, where people will call me and say, I want someone that's going to really know these contracts and really, defend me or protect me and help me negotiate the very best deal that I can for myself. It seems like I hear that, if not once a day, 5 times a day. So what sort of things, negotiation-wise, do you feel like you bring to your customer?
I think that it depends on the market as well, whether the market is a buyer's market, seller's market, if it's in between. So I think you have to educate your client, number one, to be realistic. And then from there, if we're looking at fair market value or slightly under, if we're trying to negotiate, I think the level of how badly they want a home in this specific home that we're going after, you have to kind of almost rate it. How bad do you really want this home? Do you, it's only been on the market for a few days. It could go fast. If it's been on the market for several days, or if it's had numerous MLS listings and gone off and come back on. And so yes, you have to kind of know the history of that home. And I think that that's something that our clients don't key in on, and they certainly don't have the type of access that we have. The other thing is that if we see a home that's been under contract and it comes back on the market, there are certain questions you ask that other agent. Top of mind comes the inspection reports. Hey, we would like to see a copy of those inspection reports. And then you can kind of judge the health of that home, if you will.
That's a great way to put it, the health of the home. Because the inspection reports are kind of like the colonoscopy of the home, isn't it? Where
Certainly.
They inspect everything. And so when a buyer finds a home, certainly that's the number one thing. And with the MLS being public, where anybody can, it feels like today, when I first got in the business 40 years ago, the consumer could not find what was on the market. Now today, I have consumers call me all the time and say, I want to see this home and this home and this home. So tell me a little bit about what you consider the most valuable part of the transaction when you represent a buyer. It used to be finding the home. I think finding the home is the most fun, easiest part of the transaction. But then certainly, is it the comps that you run for them? And then letting them know what the values are so that they can negotiate accordingly? Is it the inspections? What part of it do you think is the most critical?
Oh gosh, that's so hard to rate them. Number one is the price of the home. Where can you get that home in? And I've been through some battles of hard negotiations, and I can tell you sometimes the seller can certainly get insulted, and they don't want to have anything to do with this potential buyer. And I think that there's a real fine line there. And I don't recall a time where we really overstepped that line too badly. Come close.
Yes.
Certainly have come close. But I think that it's kind of knowing where that fine line is. And you know what? No one has the crystal ball. Because I will tell you that with the process of this is, in most cases, a very emotional thing for both sides. It's very rarely that you find the clients on both sides that treat it like a business.
Yeah.
Not emotional. This is a very emotional thing. This is a home someone's selling, and this is a home that someone's going to buy and
Absolutely.
live in. So it's very emotional.
And often it's the most expensive investment that people make, but a lot of times it's the most emotional one too. So one of the things that I admire about you, and I admire so many things about you, but one of the things I admire, your integrity is off the charts, but one of the things that I admire a lot about you is you never stop learning. You never stop reading, and you never stop learning. And I feel like you know these contracts backwards and forwards. And for me personally, I've done transactions where you and I have partnered with it, and I can call you and say, they want to change this, this, and this, and you know what paragraph and what have you. And I think that really makes a real estate broker, I think that's one of your biggest strengths. If somebody's really serious about the home, they look to you as the real estate professional to say, well, how much earnest money, how much option money? Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Certainly. I mean, if we're in a multiple offer situation, which we have been so much over the last few years, you've got to know how to make your offer stand out. And there are many different ways, and we could spend the next 30 minutes talking about things, a more earnest money or a higher option fee with less option days. There are so many things to make your offer stand out. Waiving maybe the appraisal, maybe waiving your approval for financing. There are so many different ways, and you have to lay them out on a table for a client in such a way that probably this has got the most bite into it, this has the most teeth that will make you stand out. Along with this, then these may be a little bit
risk
less.
Versus reward.
Yeah, it really is, and that's a really great way of putting it.
What about the changes? We'll close by talking about the changes to the industry that went into effect. I probably have the date August
17th.
17th in my head forever. Saturday, August 17th. That's kind of like, that's the day. And what do you think is the greatest effect of August 17th and the changes to the industry to buyers today? To how we work with buyers and how the changes affect the buyer?
Well, I do think that you've got to, once again, educate the buyers of what's going on. I had a very great conversation with a new home buyer this week, and they had not heard of a single thing about, they had not heard any of this news, which it's hard to imagine, but this buyer had not heard any news about.
Yeah, that's pretty shocking.
Yeah. So we
and
went.
What news is floating around out there?
It's
everywhere, and some is accurate and some isn't accurate.
So I mean, it's quick learning, and it's really great communication that you have to be able to do. I felt like we had a great conversation. He allowed me as much time. I made sure that, hey, do we have enough time to really go over this? If not, we are going to need to sit down a little bit further. And he gave me all the time I needed. I explained to him about commissions, and not that anything was ever set in stone, but now sellers are probably considering not paying as much commissions, and that we will be right. We have to have a buyer's representative agreement before we can even go show a home now. There are hefty fines that we can be hit with if we do not have this. And let's face it, at Bernstein Realty, we're going to do things by the book, and I don't intend to do anything else differently. So I've had the chance to explain this all to him. we're moving forward. We have a buyer's representative agreement. We're going to go out and see homes. It's just a matter of explaining all these changes. And I think one of the biggest things is that you've got to be able to explain, yes, there is this commission structure. You may have some sort of responsibility in this, but we're going to work as hard as we can through the negotiations so that you don't. And that's how we kind of left it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, I think I know your buyers are all very lucky when you represent them, because
Thank you, Amy.
I know for firsthand that, because I hear from them how much they just appreciate your professionalism, but your friendship long afterwards. So kudos to you, Neil.
I have a lot of great new friends over the last 8 years.
I am the luckiest real estate broker to be able to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for tuning into our podcast. We really, really appreciate it. Our goal is to educate the consumer, and when you do enter into buying or selling real estate, that you think of us when it comes time to do so.
Definitely. Thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to see you on the next podcast.
Thank you.